again. And of course, now sentencing is set. 9.5 hours of deliberations ending yesterday afternoon. Let's bring in a friend to the show here, Joseph Tully, criminal defense attorney, to kind of wrap everything up. We talked to you yesterday as it broke at about 5 o'clock here, and we walked through what exactly happened. But it was interesting when the defense at the end was asked that they wanted to poll jurors to see if there was at least one juror who stood out. It was a unanimous decision across all of them.
Correct. Yes. Usually when you think that's your only shot, that's when you poll the jury. Judge, I want to make sure that each one of these jurors is committed to their decision. And if somebody, even one out of the 12, talks about having some kind of trepidation or that wasn't my vote, then it can create a legal issue in the future. But as we saw yesterday, all the jurors were 100% behind their unanimous guilty verdicts yesterday.
It was interesting to hear from the prosecutor after the fact, and some of the reporters were saying, well, it seems as though Juliana Magalhaes, who was a co-defendant in this case, and she eventually turned when she proffered to sort of get an advantage, if you will, based on the evidence, they qualified it as a sweetheart deal. Now, she faces up to 10 years in prison, but these were heinous acts. The murders of 2 people in which both of them were essentially co-conspirators, whether or not one of them pulled the trigger or stabbed the victims here. But she could likely walk in a few years here.
Correct, yes. And that's really the prosecution's discretion. They can choose to make a deal with the devil, so to speak, and they can offer that sweetheart deal. Again, the prosecution didn't like that term yesterday during their press conference, but it is a sweetheart deal. They won't say it, I'll say it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so it seems unfair that one person, these acts are so heinous that one person is getting life in prison without parole and one person is getting released in 10 years. But the prosecution did that because they wanted to get the heavy. They wanted to make sure that they had enough evidence to get, Brendan, who was the mastermind behind this, versus just, only having the co-conspirator who had a lighter role in these tragic, horrific killings, and then perhaps let Brendan walk. They didn't want to do that, so that's why they made their deal with the devil.
The video we're showing now is the moment where those guilty verdicts are being read. And for the most part, Brendan Banfield, as you see there, looks rather stoic. You've been in a lot of courtrooms, and I'm sure you've had to counsel defendants here through those verdict readings. What do you make of the behavior there?
So a lot of people are saying he looks stoic. I see a lot there. A picture is worth 1,000 words. That video, I have some very good indication of probably what he's thinking. I could see his disappointment. I could see a flash of anger. Again, this is just my opinion. Mm-hmm. But I see a lot of emotion and a lot of thought going on there. He was not happy with the verdict. He didn't like getting stuck. I think he thought it was going to happen. The evidence was very clearly in favor of the prosecution. But still, hearing that finality from the jury, I think, is always hard on anybody.
Yeah, and in the end, he took the stand in his own defense, and the prosecutor, when she was asked at the end, she's like, I would have counseled him against that. And one of the reasons she made is that on the stand, it was evident he never talked about the marriage with his wife or never spoke of her lovingly, didn't say it was our house. He made it seem as though he was by himself. This is my house. And those things, she believed, really struck a chord with the jury.
Correct. And I'll tell you, that's what makes her a very, very, very good attorney, because she knew all the law. She handled all the evidence, objections, everything spectacularly in the courtroom. But yet she's able to pull back, take off her lawyer hat, put on her regular person hat and say, listen, he didn't talk about his wife. He didn't talk about that he loved her, that he missed her, that he was her husband. None of that stuff. All that was absent from his testimony. And again, from a layperson point of view, the evidence was overwhelming. And from a legal point of view, the evidence was overwhelming here. So it was just the prosecution's case, clear all the way through from the beginning of the trial to the end.
All right, we'll see sentencing for Juliana Magalhaes in February. The government has asked for a minimum or max, I believe, of 10 years, but the judge can, in the end, sentence, however, at their discretion.
Correct. Yeah, the judge will have discretion between, 0, in other words, credit for time served, versus a maximum of 10 years. So the 10 years is a maximum. The judge will go anywhere in between.
All right, and of course, for Brendan Banfield, sentencing is up to life in prison, and we'll see when that happens, but I believe it's sometime in May. Joseph, so good to have you have walked us through the weeks here of testimony and the trial. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care.
All right, let's move on now because a U.S. Navy jet is shot